that, since junior high school, when she was 13 years old, by the time I came back from the service, she was in high school. All her junior high school friends and high school friends, they all knew her as Ilene. And I began to notice that even my mother was calling her Ilene. My sisters were calling her Ilene. And so ever since that time, I really tried to remember to call her Ilene. Well, about 3 years later, we had another daughter, Michelle, and one of the things Ilene did was that she was a great babysitter for us. And also remember her massages. I don't know if you ever had one of her massages or not, but Ilene would pack up her massage table, bring it over to our house, set it all up, and then give me a massage. And it really helped me one time when I was having real difficult with pain in my back. And I had a couple dislocated discs in my upper back. So I really appreciated those times. But the one thing that I'm very grateful for is Eileen's care for our father and our mother. She was a very compassionate, loving, and caring person. And she showed those characteristics especially during the later years of our parents' lives when they were going through many serious health issues. And I will always be grateful to Ilene and to Trent too for their watch care over our parents. After Ilene moved to Port Orchard, we didn't see much of each other often, but every year, New Year's Day, we'd all get together as a family and have dinner together and eat together and visit together. And I'll always remember that the last few years, I don't know how many years it was, but anyway, she'd always prepare Dungeness crab because she knew that that was one of my favorite foods. Well, when I knew, in about, I guess it was March or April, when I received the news about Eileen's condition, I was really concerned about what I could do or what I could say to comfort her. But I didn't have to worry because when we got together, she ended up comforting me. And one day, I remember visiting her after she had gone through a whole series of treatments, and we were sitting together talking, and I said to her, "How much hair have you lost?" She was wearing her hat, and I said, "Are you losing a lot of hair?" And she says, "Oh, some. It comes on in clumps sometimes, but see, look, I have some hair still sticking out from under my hat." And I looked at her and I said, "Yeah, you still have more hair than I have." And she said, she grabbed one of her other hats and she gave it to me and put it on and said, "Put this on and nobody will ever know the difference." Well, we took some pictures together, and I think you saw one of those. And those pictures are the best and probably the only pictures I have of Ilene and myself together. I really cherish those pictures. And another time was at the birthday party. We went to get together at her birthday party in September. And during that time, I remember that she was sitting at the table in front of the cake, and we all got together and we started singing "Happy Birthday." And after the first "Happy Birthday to you," I found myself not able to sing anymore, and I was starting to tear up and break down. And she grabbed my hand and looked at me and said, "It's okay, it's okay." And she handed me a Kleenex to wipe my tears. Anyway, after that, we had a cake and ice cream, and one of the things she said was, "This is the best birthday party I have ever had." So anyway, in all the years that I have known Ilene and we have been together, I can't recall any time that we were ever really, or when we ever really argued or exchanged any angry words. And that's pretty good between a brother and a sister. she always treated me with respect, and she would often call me her big brother. You know, Ilene was my last chance to have a little brother. You know, after two sisters, you know, my preference would have been to have had a little brother. But, you know, the Lord had a much better plan. And so I will miss my little sister very much. I love you, Meets.
Hello, my name is Dan Powell. I am Janet Fukuda Powell's husband. And Janet has asked me to share her remarks with you this afternoon. And it'll be obvious to you that Alan and Janet didn't compare notes before now. But these are Janet's words. In memory of my sister Eileen, who was a celebration of love, laughter, and the joy of giving and sharing. One of my earliest memories of Eileen was at our 3021 30th Avenue house in Seattle when Eileen was just a toddler. My older brother Alan and I and some neighbor kids were outside playing Gentari or some other Red Rover game in the front parking strip. Suddenly, in a split second, Eileen came bursting out of the front door, rattling down the porch stairs to the sidewalk landing, and continuing down the long concrete stairs to the parking strip in her stroller. I remember when Mom decided that I was old enough to take Eileen to downtown Seattle on the bus to buy her a birthday present, a cowgirl outfit, complete with hat, fringed skirt, vest, and white boots. I think she was 5 or 6 years old, and I didn't know until recently that we had a picture of her, which we have seen just previous. When Trent and Eileen lived in Ballard, I enjoyed many overnight visits. Their warmth, hospitality, and Eileen's good cooking were such a welcome respite and joy during my years of being a single mother. Their listening ear and wisdom have been helpful to me to this day. In recent years, Trent and Eileen would take their ferry from Port Orchard to Seattle, and then our ferry from Anacortes to Friday Harbor to visit Dan and me. On other occasions, we would travel to Port Orchard. What happy times we had hanging out together and enjoying the good life. Though we will be sad at times at not seeing and talking to dear Eileen, her spirit and her soul is alive. I feel she is with us all. She loved us much, and we will return her love. She shared herself during her whole life, and she continues to inspire us. Thank you for being here today.
Anyone else from the family care to speak? Okay, remembrances from friends. Would anyone like to speak?
Hi, my name is Lisa Pyer, and I became friends with Trent back in, I think it was around 1977 in Los Angeles. We worked for a place called the Memory Master Institute, and Trent ended up being my assistant while I was an executive instructor for the organization. We ended up moving up here to Seattle because the market in Los Angeles had become saturated. And I remember we were in a class in Linwood, and I was about to start teaching, and a bunch of people filed into the room, and I did this to Trent, and I said, "See that one?" And he looked, and I said, "You're going to marry her." And I didn't really believe it or anything, but sure enough, he did. And it has been a joy knowing Eileen. And that's it.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Laurel Zoppi. and I'm going to cry. So just bear with me.
Uh-huh.
I met Trent in 1974 in Reno. And I thought he was the oddest person I'd ever met.
Not uncommon.
One of the reasons that my husband Tom and I moved to Seattle much later through via Las Vegas and LA was because Trent and Ilene were up here, and they were like family to us. Ilene was such a gentle soul and brought me such happiness to be around. I was a struggling mom of lots of little kids, and she would come over, and in the middle of my most catastrophe life, she would tell me what a good mother I was and hug me and tell me to just keep trying. And I can't tell you how much that helped me in my life so many times. When my husband died about 12 years ago, she was at my house living for days, holding my family together with Trent. I will never forget what they both did for me and my children. And I just really hope that I can be that for you, Trent. I will miss her. I loved her, and we were all blessed to have known her. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurel. Anyone else? Dr. Tanaka.
Hi, my name's Richard Tanaka, and I had the privilege of meeting Trent and Ilene. They were 1998. They moved into Port Orchard, and we shared a kitty corner back fence. And so often our children would line up the fence, and they could see Ilene cooking dinner or something, and they'd be yelling out, and sure enough, there would be a conversation going on over the fence. And through that, friendship developed, and we'd often walk the neighborhood, and he says, hey, can we go the Blackburn's way? That was the route that would go by their house. And we'd always hope that they'd see us out on the sidewalk. And often, I don't know, Trent often just sees us out there, and he opens up his door, hey, come on in. And we spent many hours and days just getting to know them. And we have 9 children, and Trent and Ilene never had children, but so they kind of adopted our children, and we trusted them, and they loved our children, and it was just a wonderful friendship that we've been able to enjoy. She is an excellent baker. I never tasted an apple pie quite as good as hers, or her potato salad. Sometimes they came over the fence, or sometimes we got a phone call, hey, we got some apple pie or potato salad, and they'd share it with us. And so, out of all the people we've known them the longest. We moved from Chicago in '95, and they've been our trusted friends all along. And even though we moved up to Paulsbo, we still keep in touch, and we often just go back. And we were saddened to hear about the cancer in Ilene's deteriorating health, and I'm so glad that they've been our friends. We've been praying for them, and we knew that God would be the one who could cure her if that was His choice, and He could meet our deepest needs. And we decided to make one more trip around. Hey, let's go see if I knew her health was deteriorating. Make one more trip and drive the Blackburn's way. And sure enough, they saw our big 15-passenger van, and says, "Hey, come on in." And it was actually our last visit, and just a precious visit. Would deeply miss. Everybody knows her as Mrs. Blackburn, but Ilene, she's a good friend. Trent, we still have you, and I'm so happy for that. And thank you for being such a good friend over the years. Appreciate it.
My name is Bill Alexander. I live 2 doors down from Trent and Eileen. There's one thing Trent forgot to mention, the doctor alluded to, I think, here, was the apple pies. Eileen and the family would go ahead and make up apple pies. And of course, they would come down. She would actually send Trent down with the apple pie to the house. Generally, after I got back from Alaska with a load of salmon and halibut, which I actually got the better of the deal. I get an apple pie, they get a couple bags of fish, and this went on for years and years. So we are going to miss Eileen. There's no two ways about it.
My name's Lori Tanaka. I'm Rich's wife. And I have 2 memories I thought of Eileen, and then I want to read some remembrances that our son Jonathan wrote. But one time, we've had a lot of medical emergencies, and one time our son Aaron here, who's now 12, when he was really little, he had a cold, and we're just eating breakfast, and all of a sudden he slumped over a bit. He couldn't breathe. And I remember it was a real scary time, but I remember calling Trent and Eileen, and they came right over while I can't remember, but they helped. I couldn't go in the ambulance, I think, but they came right over to help us. And then the other time, I was pregnant with our daughter Lily, and I went to my regular office visit, and my doctor said, "You can't go home. You need to go right to the hospital." And I had my other daughter, Amy, with me, and I was driving our big 15-passenger van, so I didn't know what to do. And so again, I called Trent and Eileen, and they came right to the hospital and just visited with us, and they took Amy home. And I said to Eileen, "Are you going to drive that van?" "Oh," and she said, "Oh no, Trent's going to do that." So, and then she went over, and I think they went shopping, and she cooked them some lunch and took care of them. Actually, I have one more memory. This is more of Trent, but one time we came home, and the front door was ajar, and that got me really scared. And so I had my cell phone, and so who did I call? I called Trent and Eileen, and Trent came over with maybe it was a baseball bat.
26-inch government laptop.
Oh, okay, his baton. And I think I grabbed a rake, and so he went in first, and I went in after him, but he said it was fine. So I just wanted to read a quick remembrance from our son Jonathan, who is living in North Carolina right now. But we met the Blackburns 15 years ago. So this is from Jonathan. He says, "Mrs. Blackburn has always been a special part of our family. I fondly remember her always cheerful spirit, her delicious food, and her close friendship with our family. She and her husband were our next-door neighbors during our growing up years, and they quickly were adopted into our family as a third set of grandparents." We saw each other frequently, did things together, and spoke often across the fence that separated our homes. Through the time we knew each other, I learned a lot from her and the example she showed to our family. It was clear that she loved her husband. They would always be doing things together, whether it was riding bikes together, cooking together, or doing laundry together. Sickness could not break this bond. They stayed faithful to each other till death separated them. In the midst of our frequent adventures in our backyard, we would often spend a great deal of time chatting with Mr. and Mrs. Blackburn. Both of them never seemed to mind answering our continual stream of questions while they were outside maintaining the yard or hanging up laundry in the clothesline. They taught us the value of spending time with individuals younger than yourself. Mrs. Blackburn had a servant heart and would frequently babysit us or bring us her famous potato salad and apple pie. She put others first in her life and always took the time to hear how you were doing. She and Mr. Blackburn attended many of the activities that our family participated in, whether it be piano recitals or soccer games. I learned a lot from the example that Mrs. Blackburn gave us while we were growing up. She will be missed greatly by me, my family, and those who knew her.
That's your son's onus.
Thank you, Trent. I'm Mike from Port Orchard, and I've known Eileen for some time, and I just want to let you know, Trent, that we love you and that thank you for sharing Eileen with us, and she has been and will always be in our hearts and our minds. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kathy Matus, and I know Trent and Eileen from Orcas Island days. I met them at the healer encampments for learning therapeutic touch. Oh, I'm sorry. I met Trent and Eileen at Orcas Island when we were learning therapeutic touch together, and we became very close when we were on kitchen duty together. So the three of us would be in this big, large kitchen helping to prepare the communal meals. But we shared very deep spiritual connections and have had some wonderful meditations together. And at one of the summer encampments, I was going through a major life change, divorce, renewal, all kinds of things. And we decided to have a ritual there. So we were out really near the water, and there were a number of us gathered, but I asked. So I have to say to you, there's one correction that maybe they do have a child. I asked Trent and Eileen to be my mom and dad, sponsoring me in this renewal, rebirth, if you will. And so I always communicated with them as mom and dad. So I'll miss mom, and I will always continue to cherish dad, and she still is with us. There is a very deep spiritual connection, and it's to be cherished by us all. Thank you.
Thank you. I might add, too, that Dr. Matus came up from Arizona, maybe, well, I guess in July, early July, and we were kind of at this crossroads for Eileen's acceptance of everything. And she tilted the scale for us, and it was just an area that I really couldn't do, and so we're forever grateful to you for that. So, okay. Carl.
My name's Carl Lowe. I live right next door to Trent and Eileen, and I want everybody to know that I come back from hunting one night, and I thought, I was sitting there, I was kind of tired, and I thought, you know, I should go over and see how Eileen's doing, because some people, when you're sick, you don't want company. So I want everybody in this room to know that that was her last night, and I had tequila with her. And when Trent went into the kitchen, she noticed that I was starting to get a little teary-eyed. And she told me, she says, Carl, it'll be fine. She said, I am happy. I've made my peace. And the whole rest of the conversation was nothing but smiles. She is a wonderful woman. I hope one day I can see her again.
Carl was a very dear neighbor. Eileen was very fond of him. And the only thought I have is if I get married again, I probably won't invite him over because she died a few hours after he came, so. I'm not saying anything. But yeah, it was also, yeah, Carl is the owner of the therapy dog that lives next door. And this is a really nice chocolate Labrador that there's been a few pictures of in the emails. And this dog always played with me. And I think the dog picked up that there was something happening because months before even a diagnosis, we actually built a dog gate between our two fenced yards so that Lily could come over. And Lily would just bypass me, head straight to the house, and go lay down next to Eileen's chair. And she just did so again yesterday or the day before. We have some company in, and Lily came over, and she went and sat down by Eileen's chair. So she became Lily the therapy dog, and that was her protege also in the email that had dreams of ascension. I don't know if the dog really had those dreams, but it was up to me to interpret. Would anyone else like to speak?
Hi, my name is Chuck. I think I've known Eileen and Trent for maybe 12, 13 years, but through Trent's work. But Eileen, like Trent often says, was his better half, and she certainly was. All of us know her smile.
I can't argue with that. So.
Can't argue with that one. But one of my fondest memories was one afternoon, maybe 10 years ago or more, and I think Trent and I might have had a little too much to drink that day. And I had my Mustang convertible, and Eileen says, I can drive a stick shift. And she got in that convertible and drove us around for hours in the country like a teenager with the radio full blast and all of our hair blowing in the wind. It was just a beautiful summer day. And she just would step up to any occasion. And through the years, the parties, and how she loved music, and the food, everything everybody mentioned. But to be able to be in their home and do a remodel and be there every day for a while and just absorb that love, it was precious. Thank you, Trent. It was just a great time.
Thank you, John.
Hi, I'm Nancy Lee Walder, and just remembering time from Therapeutic Touch at camp when my dad, who was a very strong, take-charge kind of person, was manning the coffee kitchen there. And someone had had the courage to give him a yellow frock apron with little blue checks that he was admonished to wear daily to sort of take him down to the sort of normal level. And Eileen decided to add something to that, and she developed a little habit of sneaking up behind him and pinching him on the bottom. To which he would respond with pretend horror. And then I did the same and went and pinched him as well, and doubling the horror. And we just had a nice, gentle time. She had such a wonderful way of leveling the playing field there. And under the care of her smile, everything just flowed beautifully. Thank you.
Sorry? It was the glare.
My name is Michael, and I had the pleasure of meeting Trent and Eileen. Was introduced through our friends Chuck, whom just spoke, and Patty, and Mike and Linda. Although we've had, at our gatherings, had our share of fun,